think we're ready to get started. My name is Jamie Warner. I am the program manager for Citizens United to Protect the Morris River. I've been working with Carla now since October, and we've been working on this project pretty much, well, even before I got on board. And I'm pretty excited to see what how we can make this garden grow collectively. I think this is a great idea. Just a couple of dates to keep to the forefront of your mind. On April 16th, Pat Sutton will be giving a presentation on native plants on gardening for wildlife. That's her expertise too. Learning all about the different plants that you may have thought were weeds, but are actually, kind of like nutritional powerhouses for local species. And then, oh, I don't have the date. Yikes. Carla, when is the Chris Abrupta? I'm sorry. I need to open up a different document to look at that real quick. Sorry about that.
Friday, May 7th?
May 7th, yep. Thank you. On Friday, May 7th, Carla will join Dr. Chris Abrupta of the Rutgers Water Resources Program to talk about a very similar project. We're working on First United Methodist Church's garden today, but a very similar project is happening at the Wheaton Arts Cultural Center. And they're going to be talking about that project and how it helps to steward the Morris River. So, and that is on May 7th. So keep both of those dates in mind. We are going to going through the basics of fostering the plants, where you want to keep them in your house, how to sow the seed, how to water. It's pretty simple, but it's nice to have some moral support, as Carla puts it. And we'll be putting all these plants in the pollinator garden at the First United Methodist Church. So we need you to return the plants to us by May 19th and 20th. That should have been written on your trays. This way we can work them into a design and get to planting them on May 22nd. If you're able to make it on May 22nd, we would love to have you out. We'll invite you to that planting session before we invite anybody else, because we do cap those events. Cap the number of attendees. So we want you to have first dibs on getting the plants that you grew into the ground. And another thing we're going to do together, if you so choose, is we created a Facebook page so that you can check in throughout the next few weeks and beyond, ask questions, show us pictures, just kind of create a little bit of camaraderie. What you're building is beautiful. So, let's talk about it. Let's see the pictures. Let's do all the things to kind of build this as a community endeavor. So I'm going to put the Facebook group in the chat right now. Oh, that went directly to Olivia. How about for everybody? And if you want to just click on that and join the group right now, even, that's great. We're going to start posting in there pretty much right away, and we'd love to have your participation there as well. Okay, so I think that's it. Without further ado, I will give Carla the floor, and she will begin the germination session. Let's see.
Jamie?
Yeah.
Sue just wrote saying that she didn't receive the link. I sent it to her, but I'm wondering if that's what happened with others as well.
That is I'll cut and paste and
okay. Well, hello everyone. How are you? You're muted, so you can't say how you are. So I'm hoping that because you're here, you're doing quite well. My name is Carla Rossini. I'm the executive director at CU Morris River. And, typically we would end a presentation with a thank you. So this slide might feel like I'm saying goodbye to you, but no, I really want to thank you all for coming out, for the initiative, for your volunteer, that you have, the volunteerism, and the generosity with your time. By doing these kinds of projects, we really make a difference for water quality, and we make a difference for wildlife. And without volunteers, we just wouldn't be able to do all the work that we do. So thank you so much for coming here, for joining us, and partaking in this iconic spring event. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through a short presentation to introduce you to the project and to see you, and then we will start with the planting. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with CU. I saw a lot of names there, but if you see on the right-hand side of this slide, this is the Morris River with its sinewy flow. As you can see, it's very snake-like. And this is a pretty big part of the river, close to the bluffs. But the whole watershed up north, it's just a trickle, and down by the mouth, it's about a mile wide. It is the largest tributary to the Delaware Bay, just after the Delaware River. And its watershed is 382 square miles. So it is a very important river. And back in 1993, it was actually recognized by the National Park Service as a wild and scenic river. And so CU Morris River, we are a partnership organization to the National Park Service, and we work to implement the goals and objectives of the River Management Plan. So there are something that the National Park Service likes to call ORVs, and we're going to keep them at ORVs because that acronym is Outstandingly Remarkable Resource Values. It is a mouthful, but being a mouthful, it also is very descriptive of these treasures that are in all of our backyards, the biodiversity that our area contains, the pristine waters. The Manu-Muskin was, when the waters were tested, it came back as a quality of pristine. It is actually, that watershed is actually the 5th healthiest in New Jersey, which just speaks to to the quality of the resources that we have in our area. The scenic values. So what we do is we try and protect those. And this grant that we're working on right now with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is really addressing one of the main concerns in our area, and that's water supplies. So if you really want some fascinating reading, you could go to the Water Supply Plan of 2017, and you can read that the WMA 17, which is the Watershed Management Area for Cumberland County and Salem counties, has the worst water supply in all of New Jersey. What does that mean? It means that our aquifer is depleting, and we're not replenishing it as fast as it's being depleted. So when an aquifer depletes, what that means is we don't have enough drinking water. Our drinking water is being threatened. And it also means that as that aquifer is being depleted, it will start naturally sucking down the surface waters, drying up vernal pools first and headwaters second, and and it can also affect our rivers. And when that happens, we can also see that salt water can be sucked northward or upstream. So these rain gardens that we're putting in, what they are demonstration projects, and we hope that other businesses and other organizations will start implementing these types of projects in order to promote percolation of water down into the aquifer. And as it percolates down, it also gets filtered, so the water filtered of contaminants, so the water quality is also protected. So what you're doing here with these rain garden projects and growing plants and these pollinator spaces is you are protecting water for future generations, and you're also protecting the wonders that are in our area for future generations to enjoy. So thank you for coming out. Now, some of you may already be stewarding your little slice of the world, your property. And so you may be interested in participating in our stewardship program. Jamie?
Yep, I'm putting it in the chat right now. There's going to be a link to the stewardship program portion of our website where you can find out all the different levels of that you see here on the screen: stream friendly, wildlife friendly, eco leader, kind of what they entail and how to get involved.
Have a poll question?
Oh, I do. So the first poll question is, we want to know who is familiar with pollinator garden. Do you have a pollinator garden? Are you working on a pollinator? So you'll see the poll, you should see the poll pop up, and we can just take a few minutes to answer that.
Jay, show me how to get back on this. My Zoom, I lost it.
You swipe up on that thing.
All right.
Halfway.
So the numbers are coming in.
I hear everything. Right here.
We have 10 participants. Anybody else?
Wait a minute.
58% have voted. 64% have voted. Oh, this is fun for me.
Yeah.
All right, last call for a vote in the poll. All right, so it looks like 73% of you do have native pollinator gardens, and 27 are still newbies to the idea or have not yet begun. So what I'd like to say about the stewardship program is that the stewardship program seeks to do a few things. And one of it is to recognize people who are going the extra mile to protect water resources and to support wildlife on their properties. But also, we're hoping that these signs that are put up are conversation pieces where you can become a leader within your community, within your neighborhood for protecting wildlife using that your slice of heaven on this earth. So if you're interested in applying, Jamie has put the link in the chat, and you can download an application and fill it out and send it in to us via email or via mail, and we'll read through it. And I think we require 40 points. If you get 30 points or so, you know, send it back to us, because we've gotten a lot of projects in the ground just by answering questions for people and connecting them to resources. So it can just be an exercise for you as well, or, you know, a goal. But I have to say, you know, I created this program about 5 years ago. My property was all lawn with some, you know, with some native bushes and things. But I really, really wanted to have a wildlife friendly sign. So over the last 4 years or so, I'd really been opening up beds, putting in rain barrels, putting in rain gardens. And I was finally feeling confident enough to fill out the application. I sent it in. I finally got my sign. I was very, very proud of my sign. And people, I live in basically a little suburban neighborhood. And people always walk by my house and stop and look at the sign. It makes me really proud. But if you're interested in this program, please, please do participate, because what you're doing at your home should be recognized. And also, you know, to start the conversation with your neighbors just is another way to be a steward. So let's move on. These are our, Why is this not moving? There we go. So these are our stewards. There are a few that still need to be added to it. You can see we have the yellow ones are our businesses, the blue ones are the stream friendly business, or excuse me, residents, and the green ones are the wildlife friendly. So they're all over the watershed, and we even have a few that are outside of it. And we're very happy that Pat Sutton down here joined us. So hopefully for those of you who have pollinator gardens and are beginning to be stewards, hopefully you might want to apply for the program and we can get a few more bubbles going on. Now, First United Methodist Church of Millville is not an eco steward yet, but they're going to be one very soon. And thankfully, with your help. So I wanted to give you a little introduction to what we've done there already, and then I'll explain what's coming up now. So, poll. Yeah, let's poll.
Okay, our next poll is who's familiar with rain gardens and their purpose in protecting the watershed? And we'll share the progress just like we did last time. Votes are definitely coming in faster this time. Thank you. We've got 12 of 18 participants and about 30 seconds left. So if you can toggle through Zoom and get your, I know some of you are on phones. I'm gonna have to do Zoom on a phone once just to get that experience and learn how to help people navigate that. 14 of 18 with about 15 seconds left.
All right, and so far we're looking, it looks like about 64% know what a rain garden is, and about, let's say 30-40% you know, either little or nothing at all.
All right, I'm going to close the poll. Yeah, so a good bit of you know about rain gardens and what their purpose is, which is great. Definitely something we like to see. And for those of you who don't know or who only know a little, Carla will expand on that now.
So I took this picture, and can you see my pointer?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. So I took this picture at the church, and what we're looking at here is the cement after rainfall. And what you can see here, and I probably don't need to explain this, you've all seen this, but this here is oil from cars and other, you know, oil, other contaminants that are being washed off this impervious surface and being taken straight down to the street, where it's then going to go into a a pipe, and it's going to go straight out to the river with absolutely no filter. So all of this contamination is being washed right into the river because of poor water management. So what is a rain garden? A rain garden stops this. A rain garden stops this water in its tracks, and it gets it right down into the ground. So this is Beverly, who sits on the grounds committee for the church, and she has been the absolute lead for First United Methodist in all of this. She's a former teacher, and oh my gosh, she's been getting people involved. She's been really, really just a diligent volunteer in all of this. And this is Pastor Jack, and Pastor Jack is the youth pastor. And sadly, Pastor Tom is under the weather, so we haven't seen him. He's the head pastor in a while, but it's really because of these two people that these two people that this project is going into the ground, and the church has decided to grow its stewardship. So if you look behind them, you're going to see this downspout here. It connects to a tube. I actually have a funny story about this. And the tube goes underneath the sidewalk and it comes out into the rain garden. If I can tell you a funny story. So the Rutgers Water Resources has been a fantastic partner in all of this, and they've been helping us with the design of the rain garden and also with the installation. And they've also provided a good amount of donation or match to the project. So with
I
that,
just added their link into the chat. So
fantastic.
yeah.
So they've been a really great partner, and they have all of these engineers and, I shouldn't say kids, but college students that are in their last year or, last couple of years, and, just about to become engineers, and they're working as interns. And they were standing there looking down at the sidewalk, and I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? Well, why is the project stopped? And I go over and they say, oh, we have to cut this sidewalk. We're just going to go get a big machine and we're going to cut this whole thing out. And blah, blah, blah. And I looked at them and I said, guys, but the sidewalk's only like 3 or 4 inches thick. Like, why don't we just tunnel underneath of it? Oh no, that's not going to work. And it's just not possible. And I was like, well, can we give it a try before we cut the church's sidewalk, please? And so, Holly, who's an environmental scientist, she says, yeah, guys, and she's in charge of everything for Rutgers. She's their planner, their organizer. She's like, yeah, guys, let's just give it a try, right? You don't know how persistent Carla can be. So Holly gets down, they start digging underneath, and they get through, and they put the pipe underneath, and I walk away to somebody. I was like, I knew there was a reason why I got a liberal arts degree. Sometimes it's just the simple ways, but that was my joke and my story all day long. I probably was a little too proud of that moment, but I was excited. So what's also neat about this is we've involved local businesses, and we've been contracting everything locally to get these projects done. You can see here Dr. Chris Abrupta from Rutgers, and he's working with an intern. So these projects are also training young engineers on proper eco-friendly techniques that they later will be taking into the businesses that they work for. Here you can see a man with a tool. So, we really like any person who knows what side of the shovel to use, but when they also show up with a chainsaw and know how to use it, that's great, because we are very thankful for all of our volunteers. And what he's doing here is we made the rain garden a little bit bigger. We took out some, I think they were railroad ties that they had here. This is Tom Glynn. He's actually on right now. And we took out these railroad ties so that we can also catch the water, not only from the roof runoff, but also from this parking lot. And this is also solving a problem for the church, because this is their handicapped parking area, which would get icy. And so now we have provided a drainage area for that water, and it should reduce some of the ice. This is the church, and Megan, our assistant office manager, has been chronicling everything on video, and we're going to be producing some videos, video stories of these installations. All right, then, so the first pictures you saw were the heavy lifting days, where we had big machinery out and had the engineers out, and then the volunteers came, and we got all of this. After this rain garden had been dug out, now the volunteers started filling it with, in this case, it was just wood chips, because the soil on the site is really good. It was actually pretty dark and looked quite nutritious. So we started filling in the rain garden with wood chips, which is going to keep the weeds down. And also it helps with perk, and it makes it so that the soil doesn't get too compacted and holds the water, right? We want it to absorb as quickly as possible. So I've been down there, and I was down there just yesterday, and you can see that the wood chips on the bottom, that there's this entire depression has been a pooling area, and the church says that they've never seen water for longer than half an hour there. So they have a really good perk. We use the soil right on site because they're having an issue where people were parking on a vacant lot. So we created a berm, and then volunteers, specifically Susan McKenna and Karen Williams, they donated trees to planting this berm. And then the volunteer, while we're planting and fixing up the berm, we also had volunteers out planting the rain garden area. And here, I had given a presentation on this project, or on the AMCOR project that we put in last year as part of the same grant, to the Cape May Garden Club. And so we had some of the Garden Club people, members, come down and help us. Then came the mess, and everybody says, "What are you doing?" If you see in this picture right here, these are all the future garden beds that are covered right now in cardboard. And all of the plants that you're growing right now are going to be going into these beds that you can see all throughout here. So in the design, what we decided to do is to have one straight path that a wheelchair could get down, and a person, you know, should somebody be in a wheelchair or have a stroller. We always forget about strollers too. You know, I always think that would be a good thing to put on walks. You know, it is wheelchair and stroller friendly. Having a young child, knowing what trails are stroller friendly is a really, really big help. And then we also have this scenery trail that kind of wraps around and comes back to a plaza area. Does anybody know why we're using the cardboard?
Sure. To keep down the weeds, keep the sun away.
Anybody? You can unmute. We can have a moment of unmute. Or chat. Here we go. I can't see the
heard
chat.
somebody saying all the right answers, but
Yeah.
I couldn't. And Jenny Shin wrote in the chat to kill existing vegetation, which is
That's right.
another
So
plan.
we're doing two things with the cardboard. We're not covering the cardboard right now because we want it to solarize even in the winter. So the sun will hit that cardboard, and when you put your hand underneath the cardboard on a really sunny day, it is hot. It is really hot underneath there. And what that's doing is that heat is killing off the top layer of seeds and plants. So we're restricting light, we're burning what's underneath of it, and we're also restricting water from getting through. So when we go out to plant, right before we go out to plant, we'll have a work group to cover everything with salt hay, which is a local product and a traditional agricultural product from our area. We'll cover the whole area with salt hay, and we will do some edging of the garden beds. And on the day of planting, we're going to plant straight through the cardboard. We want to maintain the integrity of that cardboard, because if we make really big holes or lift the cardboard, what's going to happen? It's going to be a fest of weeds and grasses we don't want. So the integrity of the cardboard is key. Now, if I can also tell you just a little story, there's a house with probably 4 or 5, 6 apartments in it, right next to this alleyway. And there's a woman there by the name of Anna. And in the beginning, we didn't have, our cardboard wasn't big enough. We had gotten donated pieces that were only a couple feet long or so. And if you remember at Christmas, there was a big windstorm. Well, it became quite a mess. And so Jamie and my families were down there volunteering, catching cardboard. But Anna was just an angel in helping us. She was out there putting cardboard down, finding bricks, putting them down. And she was so excited about it. She really, you know, she's so excited that there's going to be a garden in there, and the church has been so welcoming to her. Just really a fantastic person. And it's always the other garden that we put in downtown. It's just really been neat to see how the neighbors just adjacent to it have taken those gardens underneath their wings, from picking up trash to helping us, to coming out when we're trying to get wood chips off the truck and giving us a hand. These projects have also been supporting local native nurseries. So this is Joe Russell back here from Summer Sweet. And it's been really great during these times to be supporting our native nurseries and purchasing a lot of plants from them. Volunteers, here's Dottie. She's been really heavily involved in all of the planting here at all of the projects. So here we have the planting. And then yesterday, we had a germination session with the church's youth group, the last remaining youth group. So originally we had chosen to work with this church because they house 3 Boy Scout groups, a very large after school program for the downtown neighborhood. But just with let's just say the status of the world, those youth groups aren't meeting there anymore. But we have their church Sunday group came out last night, and you can see some pictures here. This is the director of the youth group. She's graduating as a teacher this year, and she's going to be a high school. She wants to be a high school literature teacher. So she's managing the youth group. And yesterday we had 20 some children and other members doing exactly the same thing you're doing for the same garden. So the church is also growing plants. So gardening for tomorrow's children. We already spoke about the water supply in Cumberland counties and the idea of how consumption, overconsumption, a lot of times in agriculture and industry is affecting our aquifer, but also the management trends. Think about whenever it rains, how much water is falling on an impervious surface. Fresh drinking water is falling on an impervious surface, is being channeled out to surface waters, and then with those surface waters are being washed out to the bay where it mixes with salt water. And then the desalination, when, getting the salt out of the water takes a lot longer than it does for let's say for it to rain. So we're losing drinking water supplies by running it into salt water. So these gardens, these rain gardens, the way that they're designed, by having a depression, by using native plants that tend to have much more complex root systems than non-native grasses. So non-native grasses that are in lawn have a root system of maybe 2 to 3 inches. Whereas, let's say a native blue stem, theirs can be meters long, yards long. And those root systems, they do 2 things. They help suck the water down out of the evaporation layer of the soil. And as they suck up some of the water, they're also filtering out contaminants. The contaminants that are left over can go up through the plant. And when they're exposed to sun, even more of the contaminants are destroyed. So, and then the native plants also are, as Jamie said, I like that, the nutritional powerhouses for native insects. So these projects are really fantastic. And we're hoping that by having demonstration projects, more people will be putting rain gardens in and getting water back down into our aquifer. And by the time it gets there, it should be cleaned of contaminants. And we've also spoken of native plants. And we've spoken about why it's so important to plant native versus exotic. These plants have been working here or evolving here with wildlife simultaneously since, I don't think it's exaggerated to say, since the dinosaurs or since our continent was still connected with Africa. Pangea, think Pangea. So wildlife, birds and bees and butterflies. Oh my, if you do not have a pollinator garden at home, if you have curiosity and you love to study the wonders of nature and you just would, like to experience that in those little free moments that you have, then you absolutely want to plant native. I mean, just to observe all of the different fun insects that come to your garden. It's just, I would say it's the best gift that anybody gave me, is the knowledge of how to plant and care for a native garden. It has just been, our garden is our outdoor classroom. It is our relaxing time. And yeah, so anyhow, the FUMC project, the First United Methodist project, it is going to recycle or perk about 93,000 gallons of water per year. Think of that. That's 92,000 gallon milk jugs of water a year. And then in suspended solids, it's going to filter out about 15 pounds of suspended solids, and it's going to remove about 0.13 pounds of phosphorus. Remember that, you know, that's a chemical, 1.3 or 0.13 pounds. That's a lot. And it's also going to remove 1.13 pounds of nitrogen a year.
That's a lot, 93,000 gallons of water.
All right. So Jamie, I have a little problem. I hear my phone making dings, so I'm just going to take a second.
Oh, there's Carla. Oh.
Sorry, my phone
I'm
is
on
saying.
mute, and I was on mute the whole time.
Oh,
I just opened up a new poll.
all right, great.
Yeah, what is your experience level in starting plants from seed? Just go ahead and answer that now. Did you figure out what was going on with your phone, Carla?
Yeah, it's saying it's charged, but it's also saying it's low battery. It's a little bizarre, which is a little worrisome.
Oh, just right. So I've got some experience.
I think we got it. We're just going to have to look at the placement when we go to plant.
Okay.
All right. And then what looked like
All right.
15 seconds left. 68% of folks have voted. We've got some total newbies, some experienced folks, some really experienced folks. We're always happy to have everybody.
Right.
All right, let's close this poll.
All right. So one tool that we're creating, and one thing that we think will help create community around this, and we did it for the other germination session as well, and people are having a lot of fun with it. It's the Facebook page. And so people are posting when they get their first sprout, and you know, people are concerned about, oh, like, should I be watering? Is my soil too moist? Why do I have a little the fungus on the top of my soil? And they ask these questions, and between the people who have a lot of experience and the newbies, there's a really nice conversation going on, and everybody sharing their experience and their knowledge. And it's been really fun, and they're making jokes and, you know, about their foster children plants, and it's really been fun. So I would like to invite all of you to join the Facebook page, and I really look forward to interacting with you there. So if you're nervous about growing seeds, I want you to know that this is the Neighborhood Wildlife Garden on 3rd Street in Millville. This was our first garden project under the umbrella of CU Morris River. And I would say, if you look at all these plants, this is a late summer picture. You can tell it because this is goldenrod in bloom. Probably about 90% of the plants that are in this garden were grown by students. And if you see their trays, they are looking pretty lush. So if students can do it, you can do it too. But you may need to have somebody in your house that is as diligent as this young man. He created an entire challenge and an entire competitive atmosphere around growing the plants. So he would walk up to people. This is what the teacher was saying. He would walk up to his classmates And he would say, did you water your plants yet? Because I have about 20 sprouts. How many do you have? And so he was getting everybody to take care of their plants. And they really brought a really nice grouping of plants. And as you can see, if you look here, that's a lot different than this, isn't it? And so these kids, while we had volunteers doing a lot of planting and germination as well, really most of this garden project was most of the planting was done by children. So really it's really been a fantastic experience taking on this barren vacant lot and turning it into a pollinator space and watching the neighborhood enjoy it. And so if the kids can do it, you can do it. So let us sow our first seeds. All right, so our first steps. I'm going to go to my soil, Jamie. And so I just need you to check to make sure that my my camera's on properly.
Okay.
Okay.
That it's all in view. Can you guys all see me?
Oh, do you want to get the popsicles?
I'm gonna
Rolling up my sleeves, guys. Anyone?
if there's anybody who, well, no, we can't see you. What is going on?
No, I can just see the picture.
Oh, your
I
video
know
is
why.
off.
I need to stop the share. Here we go.
And your
Stop
video.
share. There we go. All right, everybody. So if you want to start getting your soil.
No, I can't
No?
see you, Carla.
You still can't see me?
No.
You've got to spotlight me. You've got to spotlight my phone.
It is. I think you need to turn on your video on your phone. There we go. Except it's a light. There we go. All right. If you can't see that, just put it in the chat. But I think, well, no, it just turned off.
You want to bring one of the trays in and we can
There we
put
go.
it on, put it on
Yep,
there.
we're good.
All right, I hope it's still charging. All right, everybody. So the first thing you want to do, run your hands through your soil, find the clumps and squash them. Right, you want to get all of those really big clumps out of your soil. So it's nice and fine and airy, right? You need to have, that's why we use potting soil for raising seeds, because you want
Yeah,
it to
just
be
make sure.
airy,
Got it?
so that those young roots can make it their way down into the soil.
I think we
So
do.
once you have your clumps out, what I like to do, now everybody does this a little bit differently, but what I like to do is I like to moisten my soil
We did that.
before it goes in the tray, just a little bit. You don't want it to be wet. You just want it to be a little moist, so you don't have to overwater it as soon as you get those seeds on top. So, and everybody does it a little differently, right? Hi, guys. All right. I feel like this is still just a little too dry. So I'm going to wet it a little bit more.
I think ours is
Right.
moist now or not?
And there we go.
Is it?
And we're just going to mix it again. Oh yeah, I'm starting to like that. In my hands, I can feel that it's moist, but it's not dripping anywhere, right? Like I can feel the moisture. All right. But I don't want it wet yet. I still want it to be light and airy.
We do.
All right. So once you've done that, if you find any more clumps, just squash them. You know, I always tell everybody, you know, like once I get into this, I wish I had like a set of cards that we could like, you know, do like, or like a sleight of hand trick I could do for you, but I don't really know how to play poker or do sleight of hand. So I decided that it would probably be a bad joke. But I'm still going to waste your time and talk about it anyway. So then we're going to take the trays. This tray is the cell tray. And we're going to just start filling it up. You want it really nice and full to the top. All right, when you first get it in, it might be easier to do it in the 6-packs instead of the full tray. So once you get all of the soil in, you can see here, it's, you know,
So far away, okay.
you do not want to push down into the soil. You do not want to compact your soil. You want the soil to be, remember, again, I keep saying it, airy. So all I'm going to do is just run my hand over it and take the excess off. And then the last step is taking your drip tray. Now, I think that all of you have drip trays that don't have any holes. They have a solid bottom, so they'll hold water. There are different kinds of drip trays. Different species need different treatments. Like some of them really want to be wet. Some of them want to be dry. So, and sometimes, you know, you really, sometimes it also depends on your style, like how you want to water your plants. You know, by having a solid drip tray, what I like about it is that it lowers my need for watering every day, because watering every day is just not realistic in my house. So that's why I decided to go with the solid drip trays. Now I can't pick this back up right now. So I'm just going to take each 6-pack of cells and I'm going to put them in the drip tray.
Oh, maybe we should have done that.
That's separated them.
All right. And so everybody can see, I am going to put all of these in here. Now,
Maybe
when you water, you don't want to, this time, you don't really want to water all that much, right? Because we want the soil to stay nice and airy. So before we water, I actually skipped a step. You want to look for anything like this. You see how big that clump is? I like to pick off some of these like big pieces of wood from the soil, you know, anything that looks like it might hinder the plants. You know, if I were to get a seed on top of there, maybe it wouldn't sprout. This could just also be my OCD side, in the sense of I just don't like that there's really big, clumpy, ugly looking things on the top. But these pieces of wooden thing could be a barrier. So I'm just going to remove those. Here we go. All right. And then I'm just going to take my watering can and I'm just going to give just a little bit more water. Not much. You know, I want my seed to stick to the top and not be moving around as well. So having just a little bit more water is good. But I don't want to water so much that these are now soaking wet. You want, remember, you want them to be moist.
I think it could be a little bit
Don't want
wet.
it to be a swamp.
Maybe that's what we should get, is a little watering.
We're not planting swamp species. We're planting warm season species. All right, so from here, we're going to go back to our computer. And I am going to share screen. Is everybody done with their trays? Everybody ready to go? You can just type a yes in the chat if you would like.
Where are you typing yes? Chat right here. Where do I type a yes?
All right, can everybody see my screen now?
I can.
Oh, I think I just messed up. What'd I do?
We can hear you, Sue. Can we help you?
I'm fine. My answer is yes.
Okay. All right, so we've moistened the soil and we've squashed the clumps. We've filled the trays with soil. We've picked out any large pieces. We've watered the tray. And I don't think any of you had perforated trays, but if you do have a perforated tray, if you do have holes in the bottom, one thing that you can do is you can put a plastic bag between the cells in the tray, and that'll also allow you to water from the bottom, and it'll act as a barrier and not so that the water doesn't drip out. So we've stopped. Now, everybody received a handy dandy popsicle stick. This is very, 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 very important. Please don't lose them. Whatever you do, please don't lose them. So this is a yellow popsicle stick. And we have color coded all of the species. And if you've seen, you have, this is Black-Eyed Susan. So what you're going to do is you're going to just put this in your tray, and we're going to know exactly what species you have. And then on planting day, we're going, excuse me. On planting day, we're going to color code the planting area. So we're going to put, you're going to match the trays to the popsicle sticks that are out in the garden. So everybody will be able to plant without having too much direction. So please, please, please keep your popsicle stick. And also we're going to use them right now to fish out our seed. So it has two purposes. So one thing I would like to say is that it's really, really fantastic to grow your own seed. And I love teaching people how to grow their own seed. And, you know, hopefully it'll make it so you want to do it in the future. But I do this every year. I grow my own seed, but I kind of budget out what I want to do. So, you know, I grow my own seed, but I also keep a budget to spend at local nurseries, because it's really super duper important that we support the local businesses that are trying to make a difference for environmental health. So please grow your own seeds, but also remember how important it is that we support local nurseries, and that we show local native nurseries, and that we show the nurseries who maybe aren't growing or selling natives right now that there is a market for them. So always remember, we can grow our own seed, but we should also be supporting the people who are trying to make a living out of it. Especially since in Cumberland County, we have such, in Salem, we have such a large nursery business. It would be fantastic if we were producing for all over the place. So what are some of our native nurseries? There's Flora for Fauna, there's Summer Sweet, Goshen Gardens, New Moon. New Moon is a wholesale place. So if you have a business and you're looking to update your landscaping, New Moon would be a perfect resource for you. And there are also many more that I haven't listed here. And a fantastic resource, we're going to share this link in the chat now. One of the best educators I've ever met, and somebody who just has so much knowledge and such a kind way of sharing their passion for the outdoors is Pat Sutton. And she has a website that's called The Garden Gang. And on that website, she has all of these documents that she's produced over the years that you can read: how to install a pond, what are our native, lists of native nurseries, local native nurseries for all of South Jersey, just her chocolate cake list, for example, which lists all the most beneficial native plants. So really, 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 I really suggest that you join Pat Sutton's Garden Gang, and there's no fee or anything associated to it, but you just get on her newsletter. And we have a presentation coming up on April 16th as part of this same project. And she's going to be presenting her weeds for wildlife. So I really hope you can join us, and we'll send you an email specifically about this presentation, and it will be virtual as well. So let's look at our first set of plants. These plants, this first set of plants, they require dry stratification. So as you all well know, flower blooms, petals fall off, and the flower turns into a seed, right? The seed then falls off, the plant, or it stays there and is blown off the plant, or an animal walks by and it hooks onto an animal and the animal deposits elsewhere, or those little birds will eat the berries and, you know, let them go from their system on your lawn somewhere else. And the plant grows. But the plant doesn't grow when it's first deposited. It goes through the entire winter, right? It goes through the rains of late fall. It goes through the icy cold snows. It goes through ice. And so you have a seed that is kind of expanding and contracting, but also the hull on the outside is also getting scraped a little bit. So what we do in dry stratification is you collect the seeds and you put them in the refrigerator. So you're basically recreating the cold of winter by keeping them in a refrigerator, not your freezer, in your refrigerator. And they don't require anything else than that. Now, sometimes you have to put them in for 30 days, for others it's 10 days. And you can look all of that up. Local nursery, or not, excuse me, seed banks will tell you how long you need to stratify your seed if you're getting it from your own garden. But remember, you know, you can gather your seeds for more plants, but those birds do like to eat the seeds in the winter, and there is nothing better than seeing a woodpecker sitting on your echinacea stalk, getting all of the little insects out of there. Fantastic sight, fantastic sight. I saw it for the first time in my own yard this year, and it was just, it was so much fun. It was a great moment. So I've split this group into two, the larger seeds first. So if you have one of the next species, you're going to be sowing your seeds. Now, Indian grass. Indian grass is just a beautiful plant, and it is a host plant for pepper and salt skipper. Now, the pepper and salt skipper, its range is limited more than North Jersey. So if you probably already know what a host plant is, but a host plant means that they're the caterpillar of this pepper and salt skipper will eat this specific plant before it becomes a butterfly. So the pepper and salt skipper needs to have Indian grass to support its caterpillars. Also, the seeds are very nutritious for small mammals and for birds. And with grasses, native grasses in the winter, as the stalks fall, they also create habitat for native ground nesting bees. Not all bees are yellow, yellow jackets are wasps, but not all bees live in colonies. A lot of them are solitary bees, and they can use the reeds to lay their eggs in, or also the habitat of when it falls over, it creates a shelter for bees. Little bluestem, I absolutely adore this grass in my garden. In the spring and early summer, like its name, it is completely blue, like sky blue. And then all of a sudden, as the summer progresses and the heat, the dog days of summer come, now all of the reeds, they're all different colors. They're red, they're yellow. I mean, if you look closely, it looks just like a rainbow. It gets a beautiful seed stalk on it. As you move into winter and the plant goes dormant, it stands like golden maidenhair. And if you have enough of them right next to each other, they look like a hedge, and it stands basically for your entire winter. And when the sun hits it, it just lights up golden. And it is also a food plant that for mammals and birds, as we said before, grazing animals, deer will eat it. The stalks are nesting material again, and it is a larval host plant for 6 species of skippers. If you like butterflies, you like little bluestem. While we all want flowers in our garden, don't overlook the grasses. This is one of my favorites. Beautiful, beautiful plant. I think I've sold it enough now, so I'll move on. Purple cone flower. This is one of the most recognized native, I would say. This and probably black-eyed Susans. And it has it is just wonderful for butterflies and for bees. They like getting all that nectar out of the seed head. Oh, the seeds. Oh, the goldfinches. The goldfinches, New Jersey state bird. They, in late summer, early fall, they will go to the echinacea. The echinacea is just, it just fills with goldfinches, and they'll perch right on top of it, and they eat out all the seeds, and it's just it's just beautiful. And of course, they're in breeding plumage at the time, so they're super yellow and super black. Really nice. And bumblebees love this. And the bumblebees that are like the size of your thumb, not just like the top part of your thumb, like your whole thumb. These, like, you know, you get buzzed by them as you're weeding, and it sounds like a B-52 just went over you. I was raised on a military base, so yes, a B-52. Yes, it but I don't know, it's so much fun. Then we have sneezeweed. And I just found out that out west in Minnesota, where our seeds come from Prairie Moon Nursery, they call it dogtooth daisy out there. So just a reminder that we should always also learn the scientific names for our plants, so that when we go to nurseries, we know exactly what we're buying. So this one's scientific name is Helenium autumnale. Autumnale also obviously means autumn because it has a very late bloom time. It blooms in, I think the first blooms are going to be August or September. You can see a beautiful natural stand of this right in downtown Millville, along the Morris River walking and bicycling trail. There are some wetlands in the back there, and there is just, you go down in September and it's just yellow paradise. It's really beautiful. Helenium. So there are many species of Helenium. Helenium comes from Helena of Troy. And the idea is that she healed her lover with a mixture from the sneezeweed, from a very similar species. So that's why the entire family is called Helenium. And then this is a pollinator magnet, really great plant. It is called sneezeweed, but do not be fooled. It does not make you sneeze during allergy season. That's the ragweed. It is a colorful plant. So plants are colorful in order to attract wildlife. It does not, it is not windborne. It does not send its pollen via wind. It's trying to attract bees, and in order to get the cross-pollination between plants. So why is it called sneezeweed? Well, the colonists and the indigenous peoples, they would use this plant to make you sneeze. So they would make some type of snuff out of it. And, you know, what do you inhale that, aspirate that? I don't know. You inhale it, it would make you sneeze. And they thought that that would drive away a common cold, or I don't know, maybe they're trying to get rid of it. The colonists, maybe they're trying to get rid of the bad spirits, but that's where it gets its name, as a snuff. And then butterfly weed, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. This is the host plant for one of our most famous species, the monarch butterfly. So the monarch butterfly will lay its egg on the milkweed. I think we have 5 or 6 species of milkweed in our area. This is one of them. And the monarch will lay its egg on only milkweed, because once the egg hatches into a caterpillar, the only food that the monarch caterpillar can feed on is milkweed. So this is a great plant. And one thing about this species is that it doesn't spread as quickly as the common milkweed. And so you can, it's a little lower maintenance for a newbie gardener. When you put the common milkweed in, there's a lot of weeding involved with it, and you kind of got to know how to weed it so that you don't make it stronger and more prolific. So if you want milkweed and you don't want it to be spreading all over the place, and you don't have a wet area, I would go with this butterfly weed. And again, you know, it's important for monarchs, but it's also important for the gray hair streak as well. And native bees, bumblebees. This is just a great nectar source. You will never regret putting this beautiful, aesthetically just great plant in your garden. And the roots are poisonous, but I don't think you're going to be, or excuse me, it has poisonous parts. The leaves are poisonous. The roots, though, were used for medicinal uses. And we also have the lance leaf coreopsis. This gives you a nice early bloom. A lot of times when we're gardening, we are planting plants that bloom in your late June, July, August time period, that real height of gardening. But if you're gardening for wildlife, you also need to think of March and April and May. And what's nice about the lance leaf coreopsis is you get an early May bloom out of it. And if you deadhead it, it'll keep blooming for you at least until July. I think July is the longest that I get prolific bloom out of it. And the early butterflies just gravitate to it, and the bees, and it's just really a beautiful plant. And you know, once it's done blooming, you can cut it back and it gives you a nice herbaceous glob, let's say, of leaves. So it's a really nice plant for a garden. And our stiff goldenrod. Now, we wouldn't be making a native pollinator garden without goldenrod. According to Dr. Talamy, the goldenrod species are of the most benefit for pollinators, and they support something like 115 different species. These goldenrods are really number one. If you want activity, you really want goldenrod, one of the many species of goldenrod. I think there are 70 some different species of goldenrod. Just check that you're getting one of the native ones to our range. So bees and beetles and flies and butterflies and everything goes to goldenrod. So and I actually have it right down here. 119 pollinator species is what goldenrod hosts. So these are the species that we're going to do right now. So check your packets. We have stiff goldenrod, lance leaf coreopsis, butterfly weed, sneeze weed, which might be dogtooth daisy for you, Helenium autumnale, purple coneflower, a little blue stem, and Indian grass. These are going to be the first seeds that we do. Indian grass, little blue stem, purple coneflower, sneeze weed, butterfly weed, lance leaf coreopsis, stiff goldenrod. All right, so the one that I'm going to be sowing is going to be little blue stem, because it is definitely a favorite of mine. All right. So typically, I have to stop my share, sorry. All right, Jamie, if you just want to highlight the phone camera. So what I like to do is I use my handy dandy popsicle stick that I'm not going to lose. I'm going to make sure it stays in my tray, so we all know what species it is. So you're going to plant your entire tray with one species, whereas I'm going to just do, I think, 2 6-packs of one species, because this is a demonstration tray. So you do the whole tray of one species. Now, what I would recommend is with these, you only really want to get about 2 to 3 seeds in each cell. And the reason for this is you don't want to put just one seed, because that one seed may not sprout for you. So by putting 2 to 3, you have a better chance. I try and get them right smack dab in the middle, all of them. Now, why don't you want to put 5 or 6? I'll tell you why you don't want to put 5 or 6. Because you might get 5 or 6 that are growing, and you have to cut down the weak ones. And after raising plants, you get a little emotionally attached, or at least I do, but maybe I'm just a romantic. I don't know. But it's very super duper hard for me to cut back the weak ones. It makes me feel horrible inside. So I would recommend just doing a few seeds so that you don't end up having to cut back the weak ones, poor little ones. But again, maybe I'm just the romantic. All right, so I have 3 seeds in each one. I try and get them in the middle. I just check again, you know, making sure that the seeds aren't off to the side, right up next to the border. Just try and get them in the center so that when or if and when, we're hoping for when they sprout, you know, they're not up against the wall. Anyway. All right, there we go. I'm going to take my extra seed and I'm going to put it right back in the bag. I'm going to give you guys just a couple seconds. We have this grouping is our larger seed that needed dry stratification, right? So the rule of thumb is that you plant your seed, do not make holes and put your seed in the hole. The rule of thumb is that you want your seed to be planted about the same diameter of the seed. So really, we don't need to be making holes and putting the seed in and then closing up the hole, because basically you're just going to be drowning your seed and putting it into the seed bank instead of actually promoting its growth, right? We want it to grow now, not to grow in 100 years. So what I typically do is, with a little bit larger of a seed, I just put it on the top. I don't touch it or anything. And then I take a little extra soil and I give it a little sprinkle. Just a little sprinkling, a little rain of soil. Nothing much. I can still see my seeds. All right. Now, I do not water with a watering can. I take a very, very innovative invention, very high-tech invention. Like you cannot function without this, right? It is even better than white sliced bread. It is called, in my world, a spritzer, right? You might call it something like a spray can, but I grew up in Germany, so this is my spritzer. And with my spritzer, I do a little spritzing. If it spritzes, you're not making me look high tech here. All right, so I spritz away, and what this is going to help the seed do is just work its way down a little bit, get its way, get it sucked into the soil a little bit. It's not going to be flying around on me, right? And I'm going to make it a little bit more centered. There we go. And just get the top of that soil. When I'm doing this, I'm really only moistening the top of the soil, right? But we had already moistened the soil beforehand, so there is some water in the soil below the crust on the top, let's say. But this is just getting the top wet. All right. We're done with that group. Now, as that group continues to work, I am going to move on to the next set of plants. There we go. I'm going to share my screen. And we move on to the next set of plants, which is going to be your plants that require dry stratification, but are a smaller seed. And these are the famous black-eyed Susan, along with the purple coneflower. This might be one of the most recognized because it's readily available in most any flower nursery. Its wildlife benefit, it is a nectar plant. And birds also go crazy for it. They'll eat the seed heads out of it. And it's not really a larval host in our area, but in its western range in the United States, so out west, it is a larval host for butterflies, caterpillars. But, you know, something that we always talk about is how these flowers and plants, these native plants, how they support wildlife. And sometimes I feel what's being left out of the conversation is how that when we're planting native flower species and bushes and grasses, we're also supporting the flora community, right? Because we're making these species more readily available, and we're supporting the population. And, you know, it's important for us to support wildlife, but for us flower lovers, you know, we also want to support those native species. And if you're planting at your home, I don't know, I kind of feel like a bad neighbor sometimes, especially with the black-eyed Susan, because I plant it. I shouldn't be laughing. I hope my neighbor's not on today, but they just redid their sod, I think last year, maybe the year, but I think it was 2 years ago. And, you know, they put all the soil down, put all the fertilizer down, put all the seed down, and then they went back with the fertilizer and the lime. And, you know, I don't even know how it really works, to tell you the truth, but I feel really bad because their lawn right now is filled with my black-eyed Susans. So just remember, when you're planting, when you're planting your black-eyed Susans, the birds are going to carry the seed elsewhere. The wind is going to carry your butterfly weed elsewhere, and that seed is going to fall and it's going to grow somewhere else. So we're also supporting the you know, the native flora community, and therefore also the wildlife. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I think it's something maybe we don't talk about enough. Medicinal properties, washing sores and snake bites. And it was also used to cure earaches, as lore has it. Horsemint, another one of my favorites. The flower. I wish I had Jamie, could you, in the office over there, could you bring me the botanical sign that the students made for the horsemint? They did such a beautiful job at it, and I think the line drawing will really highlight the dynamics of this plant a lot better than just a picture of it. Thanks, Jamie. So I wanted to share this with you. This plant is very unique. It's in the mint family, which means it has a square stem, and it is one of the most entertaining plants to watch because it attracts so many wasps. Now, I'm sure some of you just turned off why would I want to watch wasps? Well, I can tell you most of our wasps are friendly wasps, and you can look them up on, I think it's bugs or NewJerseyBugs.com. And they'll tell you, they actually, for all the insects, they tell you if it's like an aggressive insect, not an aggressive insect. And so I used it. So I sat down and I watched the horsemint, and I looked up all the different wasps that were on that site. And most of them came back as non-aggressive, but some of the most blue wasps, like iridescent blue wasps, and these wasps that they almost look like bicycles, and especially when they make, but just the pollinators on this horsemint, it is just crazy. And the color range, so here, this is like a very pale lavender that you're seeing here, but sometimes those petals there, or the leaves there, they can be fuchsia in color. And this is just such a wonderful plant. And I wanted to show you a line drawing, but it's going to be hard. Jamie, can you help me? It's going to be hard for me. I can't tell what they can and can't see.
I can, well, now I see me. Let me spotlight you so that when I can see that. I can see just up a little bit, maybe. You're going to cover your face, but a little bit more. Your background's messing with it too. Yeah, I can't see it at all now. Boo.
So let me do this. I do want to show this because they really did a nice job on this sign. No background.
Yeah. Oh.
on. I think you can see it now.
Yep, that's perfect.
You know, especially with flowers, photography doesn't really work for identification. So we did a educational workshop with a, oh, this is with the tech school. You can see down here with Cumberland County Tech. And so we taught them about line drawings and how important it is for botanical studies. And we taught them a little bit about nature drawing, and they created these signs. So the color of the sign is the color of the flower. And in here, you can really see, look at the detail that they have on the flowers in here with this is where it gets its name, the spotted horsemint, because the flower has these spots on it. And then these leaves can range in color from fuchsia to a light pink to even, you know, like a white. But I wanted to share that with you because I thought they really did a really fantastic job on this Monarda. Anywho, I wanted to share that. So we will go back to share screen. And I guess I got a little excited about Monarda. I'm sorry for geeking out on you guys. I hope you're still with me. All right. Another Monarda. This is wild bergamot, and this is actually our native bee balm. The red bee balm is not our native bee balm. This is this lavender one. This is the one that's native to our area. And it's really a great plant. Hummingbirds love it. Here you can see a spotted skipper on it. It attracts birds, especially the seed heads will attract birds, and it really helps with the bees. Lavender hyssop. Now in our area, we don't call it lavender hyssop. We call it anise hyssop. It's anise in its name. It smells like licorice when you take a leaf and give it a smell. And it's very aromatic, and it's just a fantastic plant that will be covered with any and every type of butterfly that you can think of. This is your butterfly magnet. Fantastic plant. It does spread, but it really creates a really nice cushion pillow of blooms. So this is definitely one of my favorites. And it had a lot of medicinal properties. They used to use it to reduce fevers and also to treat wounds. And so if you have anise hyssop, or what they're calling lavender hyssop here, if you have wild bergamot or horsemint or black-eyed Susans, all of these small seed that require dry stratification, it is your turn to plant. Now, I have selected lavender hyssop. I am selecting my favorites, it seems like. All right, so where's my handy dandy popsicle stick? I need to stop sharing my screen. There we go. All right, still good? You guys still with me? Hi. There we go. I've got my seed. These, if you can see, these are super duper tiny. It's very hard. So the reason why I group these differently is that the first ones we did, I like to sprinkle a little bit of, because they're a larger seed and we want to plant them the depth of their diameter, I sprinkle a little soil on top. But for these tiny little bitty seeds, we don't really need to do that. So I'm just going to pinch them and hope to get about 2 to 3. I'm also looking at my soil here, and I'm seeing that I do have some of those little barriers, some of those big chunks of wood and things like that. I'm just going to take those off so that they don't stop my roots from getting into the ground. All right, and so I'm just going to continue pinching a couple seeds here. And really what's sufficient to get them into the ground, or excuse me, into the soil, not dirt, right? Because dirt's what you find on your shoe. On your brand new Nikes, you got a little bit of dirt on them, right? negative connotation. Your soil is where you plant your plants. It's nourishing. All right, and then once I have those in, I'm going to take my handy dandy spritzer again. I'm going to give them a little spritzing. Get a little spritzing, get them in the soil, work their way down a little bit. Rain, snoring. All right, there's our spritzing. Now, while you are finishing up with this small seed that requires dry stratification, I'm going to return to the presentation and continue going over the next round of plants. And this next round of plants requires a different type of stratification. So these are seeds requiring moist stratification. So thinking I might want to explain this at the over here. So these seeds here, so this one's partridge pea. These seeds require moist stratification. So what you do with moist stratification is you take a little sand, right? You use sand because you don't want them to sprout. And then, you know, everywhere they tell you to buy sand, but we live in South Jersey, and I figure sand should be free where we come from. And if you ever see me on the side of the road picking up sand, that's because we have so many mines and so many trucks that come out. And sometimes their loads are a little too heavy, and they like to let just a little bit of sand flow off the back of their truck. And that sand is so pure. It's that sugar sand that South Jersey is so famous for, that we don't need to buy sand. I mean, it is so pure. I mean, you can very clearly see the seed in that no matter how small the seed is. So if you're ever driving, maybe on, where do I find sand a lot? Buckshootum Road, Silver Run Road. What's the one that's Millville Industrial Park? That's, is that Newport Road? That's where I got this batch of sand from. And for me, this is like gold. So I can stratify. So what you do is you take that sand, you want it to be clean, right? Because you don't want anything else sprouting out of it. You put it in a container and you put a little bit of water in it. And the water, you want this to be moist, not wet, right? So if you can imagine picking up the sand and giving it a little squeeze, you don't want any water to drip out of it. You just want the sand to be moist. So you put then you put your seed in. So typically what they say is the proportions you want, how would you say this? Like you want 1 part seed for 3 parts sand, right? So you put it in, you mix it around. I typically put the top on, give it a good shake. And then you put it in the refrigerator. And partridge pea is a little unique because being in the pea family, it needs an inoculum. So typically when you buy the seed, they'll send the inoculum with it. So you mix the inoculum in with the water and you pour it in. You give it a stir, put the top on, and give it a shake. Put it in your refrigerator to recreate winter conditions. And with partridge pea, you leave it in for 10 to 30 days. And with the other ones, it has a stratification time in order to break the dormancy of the seed of 30 days. Some have 60 days, some have like 2 years, some are biannual. It's really, you know, there is a true science behind it, but the seeds that we've chosen for today or for these germination sessions are seeds that are easier to grow. So the idea is that we can teach about native plants and we can teach about sowing your own seeds so you can do it for yourself in your own project. But also that means that we can grow the scope of the project, right? We can get a lot more flowers in because seed is so much cheaper than buying plugs. And then the plants that are hard to grow, we can purchase those from the people who really know the science behind germination, which are our native nurseries, right? So that brings me back to the slide and the species that we've selected that require the moist stratification. All right, moist stratification. Partridge pea, a favorite. Oh my gosh, I was at, this is one of my favorites right now. I was at Pat Sutton's garden. She had invited my family and I to go down and spend an afternoon with them. And I was very tickled by the invite, I have to say, but I was also just taken back by partridge pea. I mean, I couldn't get away from the partridge pea. So it's really neat that the fritillaries, it's a host plant for fritillaries and for the sulfurs. And there was this caterpillar that was on the partridge pea. And if you look at the partridge pea leaf, very typical of a pea, you can see that it has opposite leaves. So leaves that are, you know, at the same point, you know, just opposite each other across the stem. And, you know, the leaves are all really close together. And you see that the flower is yellow. Well, the caterpillar that was on it was so well camouflaged that I walked by the plant a few times before ever seeing it, because the caterpillar is the same color as the stem, which is slightly yellow, same color as the flower as well, right? And then it had sections on it, black stripes on it, so that were the exact same distance apart as the leaves on the plant. And I was just so taken away. It was like, it was the best camouflage I had seen in a really long time. And it was so much fun to see. And once I saw one, I realized there was like 40 on her plants. And I went home and I purchased partridge pea, and I just love this plant. Love it. It is beautiful. It's low growing. It's an annual, but it self seeds really readily. So, you know, if you plant one plant, you're probably going to have a nice grouping of 10 plants in the next year, and they'll stay right kind of in the patch where you laid, or where you put them in the patch will grow a little bit. But if you like partridge pea as much as I do, you'll welcome that. So it is, being in the pea family, it is a host plant for the cloudless sulfur, orange sulfur, and sleepy orange caterpillars. And also bumblebees will like it. This is definitely one of those, you know how you always see the cute little shot of a bumblebee that goes into a flower that's tubular, and the only thing you can see are its back legs and its bum sticking out. This is definitely one of those plants. It's definitely that picture opportunity. Common boneset is a pollinator magnet. You'll see everything on the flowers of this plant. You'll see ants, you'll see beetles, you'll see flies. You'll see, when I say flies, I'm talking like hover flies that they also have a neat mimic where they look like bees, but really they're flies. And they're called hover flies because they also they vibrate a lot when they fly. Really neat. And they also have interesting habits. So this is just a magnet. I don't think I ever walk up to a boneset flower and see nothing on it, ever. And this plant, this is blue vervain or Verbena hastata, and it is a larval host plant to the buckeye. And bees and bumblebees just go nuts for it. And just look how dainty that flower is. Now, when I called Prairie Moon Nursery to make my order, I was talking with a representative there. He was so informative. I recommend, if you ever buy from them, call them to make your order. Don't just do it through the website, because they're very informative and very helpful with growing. And we got to talking, and I told him I was having problems with blue vervain. He said, how is that even possible? It's the first plant that comes up when there's disturbed land. But not so much here. It's not that common of a plant here. But out west, you know, it seems that it really takes off, and that it spreads a lot. But in our sandy soil conditions, I find that it doesn't spread quite as readily. But
doing well over my septic meadow.
Mhm.
but it doesn't spread outside of the septic meadow, which is kind of funny because everything else does. Sorry to interrupt, but
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you for adding.
it's one of my favorite plants in the meadow, but it's one of the only ones that just won't spread anywhere else.
What's also nice about this plant is that you can kind of chop it down to the size that you want it to be. Like if you gave it a haircut in, what is it, in May, that's Memorial Day. If you give it a haircut, then, you know, you can kind of get it to the size that you want it to grow at. So it can either be, you know, I don't know, 6 foot tall, or it can be, you know, 2 feet tall. So that's kind of nice that you can manage it that way. And, medicinal properties. It used to be used for depression, for curing depression, which I thought was really interesting when I read that. And common ironweed. If you want to see butterflies, you absolutely want this in your backyard, and you want to plant it in a very big patch. And once you do that, you'll never go back. This can get very tall. This can get 6 foot, if not 7 foot tall. And you can let it do that, or you can cut it down and let it really bush out. And also so you can get your blooms a little bit lower. And if you like to take pictures of butterflies, you know, they're enjoying so much what they're eating that they don't move. So, and it is also a larval host for the painted lady, one of our ladies around here. So if you have common ironweed, blue vervain, common boneset, or partridge pea, you have a plant that required moist stratification in order to break the dormancy of the seed. So partridge pea, common boneset, blue vervain, and common ironweed. Let's go to our trays. You are absolutely going to want to have your popsicle stick with you for this. I need to stop sharing. And all right, we are ready. So you're going to do what we like to call the smudgeroo. So let's do some smudging. I am doing partridge pea just because I am biased towards it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take about 2 seeds and I'm going to make a smudge. Right? It doesn't matter that sand gets in there. About 2 seeds and smudge away. I smudge it so I get the seeds a little further away from each other, because one thing that I do sometimes, because I'm really not good at cutting my weak plants back, it just makes me feel like a horrible person, especially when they tried so hard. Sometimes I try and transplant them first. So I'll take, if they're far enough apart when they sprout, you can kind of just really give a deep pinch to the soil sometimes, and pull them out without hurting the other plant, because you have enough room, right, to get your fingers in there. So I do try and like to get these a little further apart from each other, so that I might have a chance to transplant them instead of having to cut. I don't like chopping them. But you know, at the same time, sometimes a chop is necessary, because you know, if you don't chop them, they're competing with each other, and the whole cell will die on you instead of just the weak ones. Sometimes you get lucky and you can get 2 or 3 plants, but typically you're told that you need to give them a chop or a transplant. All right. And I'm going back with my spritzer, and we're going to spritz away. Spritzy, spritzy. Spritzeroo. Work those seeds in a little bit. Jamie, we might have to put this one in your office window.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
We have a lot of demonstration trays. Right. All right. We're spritzed in. Okay, so everybody, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of time to get those seeds in. While I do that, I'm gonna fill up my watering can. So Jamie, if you have anything, this might be a good time.
If I have a watering can, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No, if you have anything to share or say, or any links or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen anybody put any questions into the chat. So this is just a reminder that if you have any questions about anything so far, just pop them into the chat. I also would like to remind folks that the planting day for our plants will be May 22nd. So again, you want to get those plants to us by May 19th and 20th. Carla's going to draw up a plan on based on how many plants we all grow together, and how they would fit into the garden. And also keep in mind that you may not have 100% germination rate. You might have, you know, more than one little seedling pop up in one cell. And these are all questions that we can tackle on the Facebook page. So don't forget to join the Facebook page as well. I'm going to pop that back into the chat.
In the beginning, you're going to want to water from the top. That'll help keep the fungus down a little bit. One thing that you want to remember is you do not want your soil wet. If you have wet soil that doesn't dry out at all, you're going to get a bit of fungus growing on the top, and that's going to create a crust that then the seedling can't get through. Okay, so you'll kill your seedlings. So you want to make sure you have plenty of light. You want to make sure that your soil is moist, not wet. And you want your soil to kind of go through a little bit of a drying period. Don't let it get dry, but a little bit of a drying period and then get moist again. Okay, but you do want to keep them in a range of moist, right? But not wet and not dry. I hope that's clear. So in the beginning, what you're going to do is you're going to water from the top. As soon as you see the first sprout, what you're going to do is you're going to start watering from the bottom. And watering from the bottom is you're going to take out one of your cells, and you're going to fill the bottom of the tray with what I would say maybe like a 1/4 inch of water. And then you just put the cell back in. And what's going to happen is, obviously, not the roots of your plants, but the soil itself is going to suck up the water. And it's going to suck up the water to the point where it's sucked up enough. And there's a term for it, and I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. But once it has as much water as it can hold, it won't suck up anymore. So this is a good way to reduce your need to water, right? So you won't have to water every day. And it's a good way, like, it's a good way to manage that moist. So once, like, you can't see right now because the water's probably all down here because I'm at an angle. But once you look inside your tray and you really don't have any water left, except for the areas where the soil wouldn't be touching it, then you just want to fill it again, right? Just fill it again, put your tray in, and that's it. Now for on the presentation, let's go over just a little bit of maintenance.
Can we, Olivia had a question in the chat. She said the blue vervain has to be refrigerated first, correct? So I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Okay, so Olivia, all of these plants, or excuse me, all of these seeds have already been stratified. They are all ready to go on soil now. And it's important that we get them on soil now because we only have a short window of time for them to grow. So we have, what are we, March 13th, is that right?
Yeah.
We have about 8 weeks, which is more than enough time for the plants to grow. Your plants are going to be nice and strong and healthy and ready to plant. But they need to go on soil very soon so that we have the best chance at having more mature plants for the May 22nd planting. So all of your seed is ready to go. We need to get it on soil as soon as possible. Olivia, are you there? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, she said, okay, gotcha.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're going to place your plants in a south, the optimal is a southeast facing window. But if you don't have southeast facing, you want to aim for either east or south, right? And you can see in this picture, the quality isn't very good, but if you look at this picture, all of these sprouts, they're leaning to the left towards the light. When this is happening, it's typically because they're not getting enough light. But what you should do to make the stems stronger and to make the plant stronger is just rotate your tray, right? Because then the plants will start leaning the other way. So you're gonna keep your stems, your stalks stronger that way. So rotate them every now and then so that we don't have little bent over plants, right? And then once you start getting like secondary leaves on your plants, you don't want the plant to be heavy to one side, right? Just having leaves on one side. You want them to be sprouting on either side. So every now and then just rotate your plants. Again, I just want to stress, at first you're going to water from the top. And once you start seeing a sprout appear, you want to start watering from the bottom. And the reason for that is you do not want to drown your sprouts, right? If you put water on them, you can drown them. You can drown them in the soil, you can drown them in the water. So start watering from the bottom. And do you have too many? We went over this. Do you have too many in one cell or one container? Try and transplant, or if not, you have to cut. All right. I know that does not sound very nice. Maybe you don't believe me right now, but after you've worked on getting all of your plants or all your seeds to sprout, and then you have to cut them back. Oh, I don't know. If you can do it, you're a bigger person than me. You might want to try and transplant first, but do not transplant if they're too close to each other, because their root systems might be intertwined. If they're too close together and you can't just pinch one out, then you've got to give the weaker of the two a cut. Hardening off plants. It seems appropriate now, hardening off plants. So hardening off plants is a process. So about a week before the 19th. So what are we talking about? Like around the 12th of May or so, 12th, 13th, somewhere in that time frame. You're going to want to start taking your plants outside a little bit in a safe area. What do I mean by safe? Like you don't want it too windy. You don't want it to be in absolute direct sunlight. And like the first day, you want to take them out for about an hour. You know, it's like taking your baby for a stroll, you know, take them out for a little hour first. And, you know, we need their stems to get stronger. They need to get used to, you know, moving in the wind. They also need to get used to direct sunlight. So, you know, on the second day, you might want to take them out for 2 hours, for example. And you just want to kind of lengthen that time with each day. And, you know, at first have them in a really protected area. And then, you know, by the end of the week, you want them to be in the full sun, you know, for the whole day. So you want to just kind of incrementally move them up. And whatever you do, do not forget them outside at night, right? So do not forget them. I can be forgetful with things. You don't want to forget them. You might want to set a timer for yourself. All right. So please bring your foster plants to the CU Morris River office on May 19th or 20th. Also, again, we've been really having a fun time with the other germination group that we did using the Facebook tool. It's really been a good time. And you can invite friends to sign up for the May 22nd planting. And we will need you to sign up for it. We're going to give you the first option to get involved, and so that you can choose your shift. You know, masks will be required, and we're going to keep group sizes to 25 for now. And we just want to ensure that social distancing is possible on the site, and that absolutely everybody is comfortable You know, we don't want to be pushing it, and we want everybody to feel like they're safe when they come out to, and for them to be safe when they come out to a CU Morris River event. So, so please sign up, and we'll get that link out to you first, since you're growing plants for the project. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email at carla.rossini@cumorrisriver.org, or you can just give my cell phone a call right at 856-305-3238. Now, we have been recording this presentation and we'll be posting it to the Facebook page. And so anybody who didn't attend today that had signed up, they can also watch this presentation. Now, the most important question of all, if you did it right, you should all have extra seed. Do you all have extra seed? That's your extra seed. So we can do one of two things. Do we keep it or do we want to exchange it? Jamie, do you want to make a quick poll on that, or did we already have one?
No, we didn't do the poll on that. So there is one more poll.
So one second. So the question here, sorry, Jamie. So
okay.
The question here is, you all have extra seed that you can either put outside in a cleared area, and it will grow, of one species, right? Or maybe you have 2 species or 3 species, however many trays you signed up or species you signed up for, right? But if you wanted, what we could do is, if you went out and got another tray, you could plant those seeds, and after the work group, we could have a plant exchange for everybody who participated in this germination session. And so instead of just getting 1 species, you could be going home with, you know, 15 or 7 different species. So my question is, would you guys like to keep yours or exchange?
Okay, and I'm going to launch the poll.
All right, it looks like we have 8 of 13 voting, and it looks like we have about 50% who say, yes, sign me up. So if you're interested in doing the exchange, I would like to recommend 2 places where you could get seed starting kits if you don't already have them. Obviously, you can go to Lowe's and Home Depot. That might be the easiest option for you, but during these times, I would like to recommend local businesses. One is Latour's on Delsea Drive in Vineland, and we will put a link in the chat to that. And another one, which for me is a family favorite for me, because it's really an experience to go out there and you go by, you know, the crazy antique place that has all the statues outside. You know, they have like T-Rex, and really fun. It's a really fun drive. And the store is just amazing. And the people who are in there are very helpful and very knowledgeable. And that's Rourke's in Upper Deerfield. So if you're interested in growing seeds and exchanging them with others, I think that would be a really fun thing to do. And that way you can all get more plants in the ground at your homes. I hope that you can, you know, that you see that as a thank you. And if you don't want to do the exchange, you can either grow those seeds just like you're fostering the tray for us, or what you can do is just right now, clear a little spot in one of your garden beds and put the seed down. And I bet you anything, come spring, you'll have some more plants growing there. All right, Jamie, did you have something to share? Did I cut you off?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered it, and I don't have anything specific. Just a thank you to everybody for coming out. So
so thank you all for coming out. Thank you for participating. Before you go home, before you whatever, log out. Any questions about the stewardship certification program, you can email me, we can chat now. we can, we'll look in the chat to see if there are any more questions right now, and then we can just, unmute ourselves and have a free conversation. And remember to ask Jamie about any upcoming programs that CU Morris River is running. We have dragonfly walks coming up, butterfly walks coming up, family friendly Fridays, frog slogs. There's so much stuff. So, we hope to see you out and about here in spring, and I cannot wait to plant with you. So thank you all for coming out, and we'll move into any a question time and unmuted time. All right. So were there any questions in the chat?
There weren't. I was keeping tabs as we went along, and we asked them as they came up.
Okay.
Linda Foster says thank you. Amy Cooney and somebody else had to leave early. Jenny Shin, they both say thank you. They're looking forward to everything. So, and I'll just reiterate one last time. You might have questions as the days go on, so just don't forget to join that Facebook group, or I put Carla's contact information in the chat. You'll be able to reach her at her, like she said, by calling or email.
All right, so do we want to unmute everyone and see if anybody has any questions or comments or anything going on?
Sure. I actually can't unmute people, it looks like. I can only mute them.
All right. If you want to unmute yourselves, we can have a moment if you have any questions, or we can have time for conversation.
I just wanted to say this was wonderful, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I learned a lot today, and there's a big, huge stand of that horseman out on the bluffs that is absolutely spectacular in the fall.
Oh, it's great. I know exactly what stand you're talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't walk away from it when I was out there in the fall. It was so beautiful and had so many pollinators on it.
Yes, and who's talking right now?
It's Betsy.
Betsy, you're right, Betsy.
Yes.
Betsy, did you put any in you are one of our wildlife friendly properties?
Yes.
Not one of our properties. You're designated as wildlife friendly.
I am one of your properties. I feel that way. I didn't have any. I didn't know what it was last year when I saw it, and I came home and researched it to figure out what it was. And I plan on putting some out in my yard this year because it was so beautiful.
Oh, great. Hey, is anybody still on who's going the horseman?
I think Linda Foster had that.
Linda, are you going to do the exchange at all?
Yes. I have to go buy more pots though, and I'm running out of sunny spots to put them.
Yeah.
There's so many things started on my porch. I don't know where I'm going to put it.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe Betsy Loyal should team up with you since you have the horseman. Maybe that's a good exchange for the two of you.
Yeah. Actually, I'll see Linda later. Maybe I'll get some seed from her because I have some space. I know she's got a lot more trays going than I do right now. So it was great. Thank you, Carla. And
no,
Jamie.
thank you.
It was wonderful.
Thank you, Betsy. Thanks for coming out. And everybody, thank you for growing these trays. Really, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes it so that we can plant so much more, and we're going to go out and plant in one day, and we'll have the idea is we'll have an entire pollinator garden that's basically 1/3 of an acre done in a day. So really what you're doing is just so helpful. And it's a revitalization of a vacant lot, so it's just grass, in basically a desert for wildlife. There's no food there. And by converting it, we're going to be providing a little island of food, let's say, for wildlife downtown. But beyond that, we're beautifying a vacant lot. There's something like 77 vacant lots in downtown Millville. And by beautifying them, we help create outdoor spaces, healthy outdoor spaces that the community can use. And the church, you know, when we're working out there, they have a food bank right at the church. And people were walking in and asking where the food bank was. And they were also asking, you know, am I going to be able to use the garden? And all of the church members that were there said, yes, absolutely. Like, you will be able, this is going to be a public garden. And, you know, I just think that is amazing. You know, we're using environmentalism to create a serenity garden is what they're calling it, and a place for reflection and a place for people to step away from the fast-paced area of the downtown and just enjoy the outdoors. And I just think that, I don't know. So just thank you, God. I do know. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your love of wildlife with the downtown. You know, if I can take Talame's words, you know, he says, bringing nature home. Well, you guys are all bringing nature to downtown, to, you know, people who might be, who might not have a direct connection to, or a very easily accessible natural area. So this can be a place where they can enjoy the wonders of nature. So I'm rambling again. Any other comments or questions?
And Latour, yeah, but I want to get the plants.
Nothing in the chat. Olivia said thank you as she left.
Great.
And I will take all the links from the chat, everyone, and send out an email with all of the links in it, just thanking you for the
Thanks.
quick chat. Yeah, so you'll get all of those links in one spot, most likely before I leave here today. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for this morning. It was wonderful.
I hope you had fun. Now everybody go
It was
out.
great.
Everybody go out and enjoy your gardens, but do not clean them up.
I know.
Leave the leaves, leave the stems. It's not warm enough. You don't want to kill all of the chrysalises and the bees and the beetles and everything else that are still sheltering underneath those leaves and stems and everything else. Let it lie, but go enjoy.
Thank
Have a
you.
Beautiful day.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Thank you.
guys.
Good
Thank
Bye,
you.
luck.
everyone.
Bye-bye.